So after discovering how to clone humans, two scientists got together and they said, we don't need God anymore. We know how to do this. And so they arranged a meeting with God and said, God, you're just not essential anymore. We know how to make people. So God said, how about a human-making contest, huh? Why don't we go for it? And they said, that would be great, God. And they said, we'll start the same way you did. And they reached down and they began to pick up dirt. And God said, hold it, wait a minute. Get your own dirt. You have to think about that. I know. So in 2010, Deanna and I went to a place in Denver. It was an exhibit called Body Worlds. Anybody go to Body Worlds in other places? Maybe not. So some of you've experienced it. So it's overwhelming, all right? It's overwhelming in a very creepy sort of way because all these dead bodies have been plasticized. There's another word for it. I just made that word up. But there's plastic. It's encasing their bodies, and it's creepy. There's no skin, and they're in every position imaginable, from playing tennis to playing a saxophone, sports, procreating, everything. It's bizarre and creepy. It's also awesome and overwhelming. Awesome in that as I was watching and looking, I was thanking God for how He has made us. Because it describes so much about God's creativity. Like God left nothing out when He made us. So in Psalms 139:14, it says these words, I praise you, this is David talking, because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. You know, when I read that, I just thought of Body World and what I experienced. And so a few things that I learned that day that, by the way, you can find on any internet. You just Google this stuff, but I wanted to share it. It's so amazing. Do you know the normal human body holds 10 pints of blood, right? That's pretty common. But that our heart pumps 2,000 gallons of blood through our bodies a day. Do you feel that? Did you notice it? Now, this next picture represents the amount of blood that is pumped through your body. It's the equivalent of 40 50-gallon barrels. It's what your body does every single day. I was in awe. What an incredible organ our heart is. It's unbelievable. And you know, if the heart beats 68 times a minute, that is 97,920 beats a day. And in a year, 35.74 million beats. You are so strong and you didn't even know it, right? When God made the human heart, it is stunningly strong. Stunningly strong. And then the number of capillaries in your body, it's believed to be 5 million to 4 billion. I don't know how they exactly count that, but that's why there's a little bit of differentiation there. And then I want you to know that the circumference of the earth is approximately 25,000 miles. It's actually 24.97, okay? So 25,000 at the equator. And if you were to stretch out all the blood vessels in your body, there would be 62,000 miles. So to go around the earth a little over 2 times. I don't know about you, but our bodies are crazy amazing, aren't they? Just amazing. And then I think it even gets better because I'm fascinated that you and I are incredibly fast, even though you don't know it, because your nervous system sends from your brain to the rest of your body over 100 miles an hour speed. Those synapses and whatever it is that's sending, that's talking. You are incredibly fast, and you didn't even know it. And you know, what I realized through this experience of going to Body Worlds is we are unbelievable. Who would have thought of all this? Took me back to Psalms 139. I am fearfully, wonderfully made. Your works, they're wonderful, God. They are wonderful. And you know, our bodies, whether it's climbing upstairs or it's driving a car or it's throwing a baseball, and if you can go to the next one for me, Mark, that's perfect. All those things, unbelievable amounts of things are happening. So there's this incredible unity within our body, but also this incredible diversity. And when it doesn't work so well, things happen, don't they? Like that as well, because we've all experienced those kind of moments. Now, what if? What if this? As our body is meant to work together in unity, in symmetry that is unbelievable, so the body of Christ at First Presbyterian Church, Klamath Falls, is meant to work as well. In John 17, it's the conclusion of Jesus' talking that Thursday night. We read chapter 13 through 17, and it's all his teaching that happens at the Last Supper. And at the very end, in chapter 17, Jesus gives this amazing prayer. And then at the end of that prayer, I wanted to read just a portion. It starts on verse 20. It says this: "My prayer," and this is Jesus talking, "is not for them alone." He's speaking of his disciples, right? "I pray for those who will believe in me through their message, that all of them may be one, Father, just as you are in me and I am in you. May they also be in us, so that the world may believe that you have sent me. I have given them the glory you gave me." And by the way, that we believe that's the Holy Spirit, new life in God. "That they may be one as we are one, I in them and you in me. May they be brought to complete unity, to let the world know that you sent me and have loved them even as you have loved me." I don't know about you, but that's a fantastic kind of prayer that comes from the heart of God for us. And Jesus is asking that the Father would create in us the same unity that comes from the Father, the Son, and the Spirit. You know, there's no competition with the Father, Son, and the Spirit. You know that. They just get along magically. Each of them have their own role, so there's this incredible diversity, yet at the same time, they are one. One. Fascinating to me. And by the way, this is a picture I've used. It's how the Eastern Orthodox Church sees the Trinity in a dance, a perpetual dance. So, uniquely different, even diverse, yet one. Always looking out for the best interest of the other, for the greater good. So God's desire is that we would be a unified, so to speak, or a church that is full of unity. But I want you to understand something. That when he says that, he's not talking about uniformity, okay? There's a difference in those. We're to be diverse as God is diverse, the three in one. But uniformity is about being rigid often, isn't it? It's imposed sameness. It's the idea that when you're uniformed, you're thinking the same, being the same, believing the same. And there are some basic things that we would say we want to have some uniformity about. We all struggle with our wisp, our wounded, imperfect, sinful people that we are. That's uniformity there. And we know that the Spirit calls us into a relationship with God. Jesus comes and becomes that person who lives life, dies on our behalf, and is raised from the dead, that we might be in relationship with the Father. So there's a sense of uniformity in those beliefs. But I want you to know that there's great diversity beyond those walls that we have. Great diversity and freedom as to how our faith is expressed, it's lived out, what we focus on the most. And Paul wants us to know, or Jesus, that unity, our unity becomes one of the greatest expressions of God's love for not just us, but the world. The world takes notice. And there's a natural moment where the world says, aha, so that's what's going on. And this was an aha moment as they meet. The world takes notice when we allow Christ to create unity here amongst our individualness, our diversity. The question becomes, how do they love each other so well? Wouldn't that be a wonderful question for our Klamath Falls? They looked at FPC and said, how do they get along so well? It becomes one of the greatest forms of evangelism, folks, when we live the way God designed us. And by the way, the best kind of evangelism is showing first and then telling. That's the best form of evangelism. We demonstrate what's true, what Jesus is doing in our lives, and then we talk about it as the time opens up. So in verse 23, Jesus said, I in them, you, he's talking about the Father, in me. May they be brought to complete unity. That's Jesus' prayer. That's the way of Jesus. It's supposed to become our way as well. Folks, this unity is living in the groove of the Holy Spirit, the way of the Spirit. That's what enables us to do this sort of thing. Now, last week we were in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, and we had this litany and list of spiritual gifts. Some of you are going to remember it, and it's going to come up right on the screen now. And it's also taken from Romans 12 and Ephesians 4, and there's a smattering of other spiritual gifts throughout the New Testament, because some of you are going to go, well, hospitality is not up there, Pastor John. That's because it comes in a different passage. But this is incredible diversity, isn't it? Incredible diversity when all of these spiritual gifts are taking place, yet there is unity that they all come from the same Spirit. Out in the foyer are what are called spiritual gift surveys. So if you don't know what your spiritual gift is, if you're going, I don't know what any of this is about, these are out there right as you go by the stairs, right next to the newsletter. So I want you to take both those, the newsletter and the spiritual gift survey, and want to invite you to consider, this is, by the way, this is not the organic way. We talked about that last week. The organic way is to be able to say, well, this is what I hear or see God doing in my life. Or you tell somebody, this is what I see in your life. This is just another way, though, of helping that story of finding your spiritual gifts. So, these are out there. Please, I'd love them all to disappear. I'd love them all to and if they don't, I might email them to you. You never know, okay? So, what I want us to remember, this, and this comes out of last week, is that your spiritual gift is essential for this body of Christ, okay? Your spiritual gift it's not an option. It's not something it's nice to think about. God goes to great extent and work to give you what is very best for you. For you. Now, Paul, so he speaks about some of these, and on the heels of this litany of gifts, he then talks about a picture of what life is meant to be like. And he says this in 1 Corinthians 12, starting with verse 12. The human body has many parts, but the many parts make up our whole body. So it is with the body of Christ. Some of us are Jews, some of us are Gentiles, some are slaves, some are free, but we've all been baptized into one body by one Spirit, and we all share the same Spirit. Yes, the body has many different parts and not just one part. So every one of us is called to function in this body, okay? That's what we're called to do. And when we're firing on all cylinders, when we're letting the sum total of us outshine each individual, this is kind of what it looks like. A symphony. You know, if you take a piece of the symphony, that's the part, right? It can be beautiful in its own, but when it is together, they create magic, don't they? They create beauty that cannot happen apart from the rest of them. This is true of us. Some of you have amazing gifts, and they're beautiful and wonderful, but they're meant even more to shine within the whole. And when they do, this next picture happens. Isn't that a great picture of unity? There's so many folks there, I didn't bother to count them all, but they are creating a oneness. That's what God is up to. And Paul tells us in 1 Corinthians 12 that you come from many places, right? Some of you are Jews, some are Romans, you're Gentiles, some of you are slaves even still, and some of you are free, but we're one. And you know, Jesus was working on this with the disciples. They just didn't know it. So in the beginning of Jesus' ministry, basically he was dealing with Jewish men, which was the most common thing, right, for rabbis to do. And then it morphed over to Jewish women, and then Jewish children, and then they crossed the border into Samaria. Oh my gosh, the evil Samaritans. And Jesus was trying to get the disciples to see God's up to something new. And the church is not going to look like what it used to look like. We're all in this together. All these differences, they wash away. So, race, gender, socioeconomic status, age, all those things disappear, are meant to disappear in this thing called the body of Christ. He says in verse 13, Paul does, that we've all been baptized in one body, one spirit, and we all share the same spirit. We all share the same spirit. You know, baptism in the spirit, CJ was baptized this morning, and there was a drenching. And when we're baptized with the Holy Spirit, there is a drenching. There is a sense where the Spirit literally fills us to overflowing. That's what Paul is talking about. And it sounds so much like Jesus' prayer, Paul does right now, about unity, about oneness. Then we get to verse 14, and he says, yes, the body has many different parts, not just one part. So there's this conference going on inside of you and in me. And all the body parts are there. And the foot stands up, and the foot says, you know, I'm always in socks and shoes, and it's stuffy in there, hard to breathe, it smells, I'm not very happy, I'm not noticed. Why can't I be like the hand? Oh, the hand is noticeable and elegant, and people love the hand. They don't love the foot, for crying out loud. Sometimes I just don't feel like I'm a part of the body. And then the ear stands up. I'm stuck on the side of the head, for crying out loud. I'm glad there's two of me, but really the only time I'm noticed is when music is too loud or too quiet, or they got swimmer's ear or something like that. Oh, the eyes. The eyes have it. They're beautiful. They're stunning. They're right in the middle of the face. When was the last time a guy wrote a song, I fell in love with your ears? I just don't feel like I'm a part of the body. And then Paul in verse 16 says, because the foot and the ear doesn't feel like it's a part of the body, does that mean it's not? Remember, Paul's talking here about spiritual gifts. Not body worlds, not really the physical body. See, the Corinthians struggled and the Romans struggled too with this notion that if I've got flashy gifts, good for me. I get to be seen and known, good for me. And if I've got gifts that feel more like the foot, woe is me. I'm just not essential or vital to ministry in the church. Not necessary or important. You know what Satan wants to do, folks? He wants to use our pride to divide us. That's what he wants to do. So he inflames us into being more important than we really are, or to be thinking we're not important at all. And do you realize pride plays a role in both those, right? We're puffed up or we're feeling sorry for ourselves. And most of the time we feel sorry for ourselves because of pride. Because of pride. Now he goes on in verse 17 and he says, if the whole body were an eye, how would you hear? Or if your whole body were an ear, how would you smell anything? But our bodies have many parts, and God has put each part just where He wants it. How strange a body would be if it had only one part. Yes, there are many parts, but only one body. The eye can never say to the hand, I don't need you. The head can never say to the feet, I don't need you. In fact, some parts of the body that seem weakest and least important are actually the most necessary. So what would life be like if we were just an eye? This next picture will show you. I just have one word for this. It's awkward. It's awkward. Gary Voigt, I don't know how you would make glasses for this guy, right? I don't know. Paul says every part of the body is necessary. Now, I know some of you are going, Pastor John, hang on. You don't need tonsils, okay? He didn't know you didn't need tonsils back then, right? You can live without an appendix or maybe a kidney, but they didn't know that. So just go with the metaphor, okay? Don't get lost on things like that I just mentioned. Okay? So, Paul says that not only are what we would consider some of the less shiny gifts important, but they're actually the most necessary. It's fascinating that he would say that kind of thing. So some of the less shiny gifts might be the gift of serving. Some of you served amazing last week at our picnic. It was amazing. There were close to 100 of you out there. It was beautiful and wonderful, but it's not shiny, right? Some of you have the gift of mercy, and that's kind of a behind-the-scenes gift, or what Paul describes as helps. It's coming along and supporting other kinds of things. They look different than maybe somebody who has the gift of preaching or teaching or pastoring or leadership, or maybe a gift of healing that happens in front of folks, right? Those appear more shiny. The truth, Paul says, is the lesser gifts are actually the more necessary ones. They're the ones that hold us together. And please understand, nobody's spiritual gift is a solo gift. We don't get to just be an eye or an ear. We're all in this together. We function like a body that needs every part. And when you don't have every part, you notice it, right? We all do. So what is this saying about you and me? What God has gifted you, we need here. You got to hear that. What God has gifted you, we can't do without. Now, I know it's easy to go, of course they can. No. God's saying that's a lie from Satan. You are needed. You are necessary here in this place. And then he says that when our unity and our symmetry are ability to be one is so powerful, so strong. He says in verse 26 these amazing words, if one part suffers, all parts suffer with it. And if one part is honored, all parts are glad. All of you together are Christ's body, and each of you is a part of the others. So why is this true? When's the last time you broke a little toe? What happens? Does your whole body notice? Or just you ignore it and go on? That's called leprosy, by the way, if you ignore it and go on, right? No. When something hurts, you notice even so much as what would seem tiny, insignificant sliver under your fingernail, because I've had one. You notice all the time. You know, we're called to literally suffer with those who suffer. That's why we pray for one another. That's why we have people who go and visit. And by the way, if that's something that really calls to you, we want to talk to Lee Woods. Talk to myself. Or if you just feel this calling to visit folks, we're always looking for more of those. So we literally suffer, Paul says, with one another, but we also celebrate. I don't know if you know, but Rafael Murillo, he comes to our second service. Rafael, are you here today? And there you are. He didn't know I was going to say this, but Rafael just got his doctorate in history. Isn't that amazing? We need to celebrate those kinds of things. Last week, Christy Mueller was up front, and we celebrated her graduating from KU. We need to honor one another and suffer with one another. You know, God's made this church, the church, in such a way that we flourish when we use our gifts and talents, when we work in unity. So this picture keeps coming up, and do you know what it is? It's the celebration after Oregon State won the College World Series baseball. Now, don't whoop and whop, that's not the point. This is what caught my attention. 3 of these young men were drafted in the first round of the Major League Baseball draft. Never happened in Oregon State's history. Never. So they're incredibly talented as individuals, right? But in spite of their individual talent, just like a body, they need every position played. So that this outstanding pitcher cannot say, hey, I don't need a first baseman. Who needs a first baseman? And the shortstop, who may be the most gifted athlete on the team, doesn't say, hey, we don't need outfielders. What a dumb concept. No. For them to thrive, for them to flourish, they need everybody. They're all important. And they get this quite well. If you heard interviews, and I don't know if you know much about Pat Casey, but he's a strong man of faith. He loves Jesus. Came from George Fox University. And he loves God. And he builds these young men into a team that is one, yet diversified, right? They have all this diversity. And this, folks, is a picture of the church. It's what it's meant to be. We are to celebrate our wins and be in sorrow when we struggle, but live in unity. I want you to remember that what's important to God, it's not what you don't have. There's plenty of what I don't have. He wants us to pay attention to what we do have. That's what he pays attention to, and he wants to grow that in you. Grow it in you and have it released and empowered in our church, flourishing so that our whole body will flourish. So, figure out your spiritual gift. Figure it out. After the worship service, we have a reflection time. in the library, and I would just invite you to come. If you don't know what your gift is and you're curious, come. And we'll talk about it. We'll think about it. And if you don't have a role in this body, ask. Ask. Let us know in the church office. Let me know personally. There is a place for you in this body called First Presbyterian Church. And then please, don't whine like a little toe that's ignored if you don't have one. Do something about it, right? Involve yourself. And also, if you're one of those who do too much, you probably need to pay attention to those that are doing less and invite them in the journey with you. And then, if you think you're indispensable and you're full of pride about what you got and who you are and what you do, get a life. You need to get a life in Jesus, and you need to let the Spirit guide and direct you. Do you know Jesus has a dream for you and me here at this church? I'm very serious. He has a dream for this body. It's that we would live in the groove, the rhythm, the way of the Holy Spirit. That's his dream. That we would be flourishing as one, yet incredibly diverse because we're using our gifts and our talents for the kingdom of God. Kind of like dancing like the Father, Son, and Spirit do. Kind of like Oregon State baseball in unity. Kind of like the body working together and functioning. Both for inside this church and outside, so that the world's going to look at us and go, how do they do that? How do they love each other? Do they do that together? It's the Holy Spirit thriving in our midst. Matthew 5:14, Jesus says this, "You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden." May that be us, folks, a city on a hill that cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on a stand and it gives light to everyone in the house. I want you to know, wouldn't it be the most amazing thing if we became a light in our community? Seriously? In some ways we are, but we have a long ways to go. Verse 16, in the same way, let your light shine before men, that they may see your good deeds and praise your Father in heaven. The greatest way to be an evangelist is to show the love of God. Closing story. In Moorhead, Minnesota, it's right on the border of North Dakota. Like you can throw a rock, apparently. I haven't been there, but it's right there. There are folks every year that get super excited about the Concordia College Christmas concert. And at the concert, there's this almost world-class symphony plays, and they have an amazing choir that they're both just stunning. But maybe even more important is what's behind the choir and the symphony, because it's a 100 by 30-foot mural. It actually looks like stained glass when it's completed. And right about now, July, in Moorhead, they are beginning the plannings of this coming Christmas concert. And what happens, if you can see, there's just all this paint, and then there's these kind of stands. And what happens is artists are designing this enormous 100 by 30 foot paint by number mural. It's paint by number. So that what happens is every person is invited in that community, thousands upon thousands, to come and paint. And they do it all summer. They do it all summer long, day after day, week after week, one tile after another. And it leads to this. Isn't that amazing? That is the mural that looks like an incredible stained glass window. Now, The weekend of the concert, it starts the 1st of December every year, and they play for there's a number of concerts. What happens that first Thursday night at the concert is all the folks from the community come. They want to see it because they haven't seen the whole thing. And as they're walking before the concert, you hear whispers. Hey, do you see that camel in the corner? The green under his foot, I painted that. And then do you see that angel up in the right-hand corner? Yeah. That halo, that was mine. I did it. Folks, this is going to be their 92nd year. 92nd year of making mural after mural after mural. So, every day in the middle of July following in Moorhead, Minnesota, thousands upon thousands of people, they're unknown, ordinary people, right? Painting what appears like ordinary tiles in a paint-by-number system, and it becomes this, just stunningly beautiful, raising people's hearts to God every Christmas in Moorhead, Minnesota. Folks, this is the church. It's what the church is meant to be. Using your gifts, your talents, to make something beautiful. Jesus said, I and them, and you and me, Father, may they be brought to complete unity. Let's be quiet and just listen to the voice of the Spirit. It's whispering. So Father, Son, and Spirit, one yet incredibly diverse, we thank you. You are our example. You are our God, our power source. Lord, you're calling us to live in the way of your Spirit. And this is one of those ways, God. And will you bless us, please, this community of faith? Will you bless us to discern our gifts, our talents for you and your glory and your church, and then begin to use them to the best of our ability, that you will be known, Lord, that you will be known, and people will want to know you because of that. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you. In your great name, amen.